incredible moment. Single mom takes bullet for girl, revealing billionaire CEO dad in 5 minutes. Sarah stood in the grocery store, the fluorescent lights buzzing in her ears as she leaned over to inspect the snack aisle. "Just 1 more minute, Mia," she called, her heart racing from the pressure of juggling 2 jobs while trying to give her daughter a happy life. The weight of her exhaustion clung to her like a heavy coat. She reached for the last packet of chocolate-covered pretzels, wanting to make tonight's movie night special. If only her long shifts could fade into oblivion for just a few hours. Mia squealed with excitement over a new cartoon character on a nearby box, her laughter ringing like sweet music that filled the cracks in Sarah's heart. But beneath the surface, doubt churned. Was this enough? Was she enough? 2 jobs at the diner and cleaning offices from dawn till dusk made it hard to catch a break. Each day, Sarah wrestled with feelings of inadequacy, a nagging fear that she was failing her daughter while living in a world that felt so unforgiving. Suddenly, the store door swung open, and an imposing figure stormed in. Time slowed. Panic rippled through the aisles as a man with a gun shouted for the cash. A jolt of terror surged through Sarah's body, tightening her throat and quickening her breath. As the chaos unfurled in front of her, her instincts kicked in. Mia. She threw herself between her daughter and the man, pushing Mia to the floor, just as a deafening shot rang out.
Before Sarah knew it, pain sliced through her shoulder and she hit the ground hard. A gut-wrenching scream broke loose from Mia's lips as the world twisted into a blur of gasps and chaos. The breath escaped Sarah's chest, the warmth of her blood pooling below her, but all she could think of was Mia, her world frozen in sheer terror. Through dimming vision, she saw her daughter's wide, bewildered eyes, reflecting both fear and confusion. What had she done? Every instinct screamed for survival, yet love had propelled her into action. While news of Sarah's bravery erupted across social media, it painted her as a hero. But in their tiny apartment, Mia discovered a box tucked away in the back of a closet. A treasure trove of unanswered questions. Letters lay scattered, their words detailing a distant past she never knew. Her father's identity, the billionaire CEO who vanished like smoke. As she pieced together the story, anger mingled with sorrow. Where was he all this time? What kind of man could abandon his daughter? The weight of discovery crushed Mia. Was wealth worth the emptiness? As photos of her father's lavish life flashed across screens, she grappled with the shattering reality. She stood poised between rage and understanding, her childhood innocence stripped bare. Each day, Sarah lay fighting for her life, Mia's heart twisted at the thought of the man responsible for it all. What if he showed up now? What would she say? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Days stretched on, a bitter limbo of anxiety and hope. But then came the knock at Sarah's hospital room door, each rap echoing with significance. Mia's heart raced as the door creaked open, revealing the man she had never known, but felt deeply connected to. Her father stood there, looking equal parts lost and determined. Would this encounter provide the healing they both desperately needed, or would it chisel deeper wounds into their fragile hearts? The air was thick with tension, heavy with all the unspoken words that hung like an impending storm, waiting to unleash their fury. Mia's breath caught in her throat as her father's gaze landed on her, eyes reflecting an unexpected vulnerability. For a moment, the sterile hospital light flickered, illuminating not just his face, but the flaws of his existence, a tapestry of missed opportunities interwoven with the threads of wealth and escape. "Hi," he finally managed, his voice a mix of hesitation and fervent hope. The sound barely breached the silence in the room, yet it hung there, a fragile bridge connecting 2 fractured lives. Mia crossed her arms defensively, her heart a tempest of emotions she couldn't articulate. Anger, curiosity, and sadness warred within her, each vying for dominance in this moment that felt surreal. "Why are you here?" she demanded,
her voice steadier than she expected. Each syllable was weighted with years of pent-up frustration and longing. It was the question that penetrated the barrier of familial distance, an accusation wrapped in a plea for truth. "I heard what happened," he said, his brow furrowing. "I had to see you." Mia struggled to process the gravity of his words. His presence, this man who had left them to exist in solitude, felt laden with an unspeakable burden. She pressed on. "You're always there, but never here. What do you want from me?" His response was hesitant, like he was reshaping a lifetime of regrets into a coherent thought. "I want to explain. To be better. For you and your mother. I know I'm not enough, but I want to try." Something in his declaration caught Mia off guard. Was it the sincerity in his tone? The impossibility of rebuilding a connection that felt already irreparably broken? She realized how desperately she needed answers, not half-truths. Yet the bitterness of her reality encased her heart, cold and impenetrable. As they stood there, locked in a fierce silence, her mind burst with memories, not of moments shared, but of the loneliness that defined her childhood. The countless times she had wanted him to be there, the emotions buried beneath layers of resentment now screaming for recognition. "Did you even care?" she blurted out, the urgency in her voice betraying her composed facade. "Was I just an afterthought? A mistake you wanted to forget?" "Please, Mia," he pleaded, his hands trembling slightly as he scratched his head, the weight of guilt marked all over him. "I never stopped thinking of you. Every day I wished I could make different choices. I was young and afraid." "You were selfish." The words slipped out, echoing through the sterile air like an incantation of her unresolved anguish. "You don't get to come back now because it's convenient. You don't get to fix this by saying you care." Her father's face hardened, but she spotted a flicker of realization in his eyes, a moment where the facade cracked, revealing the chasm of abandonment and regret. Both stood on the precipice of a new truth, yet it took all of Mia's effort to sift through the rubble of their past. "If you want something real," she continued, "you have to earn it. You can't just walk in here and expect everything to be okay." As the words fell between them like stone, Mia grappled with the unfolding possibilities. She was no longer the little girl waiting in the abyss of neglect. She was poised on the edge of a new beginning, ready to decide her own path. For the first time driven by her own demand for respect and honesty. But deep within, another thought rushed over her like a tidal wave. Was she capable of rising above the anger? To reshape her identity not just from the fragments of rejection, but to grow beyond them? The tension crackled in the air as her father's eyes searched hers, seeking redemption, but finding only the raw scars of their shared history. This moment marked a turning point, a tense intersection of past and future. "Someday soon, I'll want answers too," Mia whispered, the vulnerability cracking her hardened armor for just a moment. As the implications of her thoughts washed over her, the residual pain began to shift. The question hung like a taut string poised to snap. Could she find within herself the power to forgive and grow, or would the shadows of their past consume her completely? And in that charged silence, another knock rattled the door, reverberating through them both. Sarah, a fighter in life and spirit, was returning for them both. What would that reunion hold? Would the truth emerge from its hideaway, or would it compound the wounds already festering? Mia's heart pounded as Sarah pushed the door open, her expression a mixture of concern and determination. Sarah, who had been a steadying force through Mia's tumultuous existence, now stepped into a surgery of raw emotions, ready to dissect the complexities of family bonds. "Mia, are you okay?" Sarah's voice sliced through the tension, cutting into the moment like a knife. She rushed forward, her gaze flitting between Mia and her father, as if assessing the damage of an invisible battlefield. Mia swallowed, caught in the riptide of conflicting feelings. Was this reunion a crisis or a catalyst? She felt as though she stood on a precipice, where a nudge in the right direction could lead to a profound transformation or plummet her further into despair. "I'm fine," Mia responded, arms still crossed. "We were just talking." The words felt hollow, a shield that couldn't protect her from the fallout. Talking? Sarah's incredulous gaze shifted to the man who had once been a phantom in Mia's life. What does that even mean? Her father opened his mouth to speak, but hesitated. Perhaps he understood that words alone wouldn't bridge the chasm of years lost, nor could they effectively convey the turmoil raging within Mia. He remained silent, a mirror for Mia's own uncertainty, and that shared silence felt like a suffocating weight. "Mia, this is—" he began, but she cut him off. "You don't get to explain anything," she snapped, the fiery instinct to protect herself surging to the forefront. "Not until you've really thought about what it means to show up now." The fight within her was palpable, a volatile mixture of anger and the wistful desire for something more. Mia turned to Sarah, seeking refuge in her presence, yet the discomfort lingering in the air tethered them all together in a web of unresolved issues. "Mia," Sarah said gently, "you don't have to face this alone." There was a maternal quality to Sarah's voice, an instinct to offer strength in the direst of moments. "I know," Mia whispered, but she felt the weight of isolation all the same. Even with Sarah's support, this confrontation was hers to own. Mia faced her father again, her expression resolute. "If you want a chance to be part of my life, you must see me. Not as your daughter, but as a woman who has carried your absences like stones in her pocket. Only then can this mean anything." Her father's face tightened, as if the responsibility of understanding their distance bore down on him. "I can't undo the past," he finally said, his voice cracking with unspent emotion. "But I want to start over. I want to understand who you are now." A flicker of uncertainty shot through Mia. A chance to build something from the ashes of neglect both terrified and exhilarated her. She was standing at a crossroads. Was she prepared to step into the unknown? "What do you actually know about me?" she questioned, softening just enough to allow him in, if only for a fleeting moment. "Do you know my dreams, my fears? What drives me?" "Not yet," he admitted, vulnerability lacing his words. "But I want to learn, I promise." Something shifted within her at those words, but the remnants of betrayal clashed violently with the prospect of change. Mia's mind raced with the possibilities of what this facade of reconciliation might hold. Could it truly rewrite their fragmented narrative, or was it merely a false dawn? With a deep breath, she leaned into the courage she had built over years of solitude. "Prove it," she challenged, the edge in her voice a testament to her resolve. "Show me that you're willing to try." Silence enveloped them once more. The tension in the air turned electric, each awaiting a sign, a commitment, a promise of truth etched in the fragile fabric of their tenuous connections. As Sarah quietly observed, Mia's heart pounded a rhythm of hope and fear. What would come next could either be the genesis of a fresh chapter or a sobering reminder of reality's inescapable grip. Mia's focus sharpened, cementing in her mind a singular intention: to navigate this new terrain of vulnerability. But how would she map the uncharted waters of her father's sincerity, and would her own heart allow it? Suddenly, Mia felt another knock at the door, this time less foreboding, a tremor of familiarity that suggested further possibilities awaited beyond this moment. Who else might enter, and what truths would they bring? The knock echoed, reverberating through the tension-laden room, and Mia felt a sudden jolt of uncertainty. She shifted her gaze from her father to Sarah, who raised an inquisitive eyebrow, yet remained silent. It was as if they sensed that the moment carried weight beyond mere coincidence. "Should I?" Sarah began, but Mia shook her head gently, signaling for her friend to remain quiet. This was her battle, not theirs. The burden of the past weighed on her, a heaving mass just waiting to be confronted. The door creaked open further, revealing a tall figure framed in the doorway. Mia's heart skipped a beat as she recognized the unmistakable presence of her younger brother Lucas. He stood there, uncertainty dancing in his eyes, an unexpected variable that muddied the already murky waters of confrontation. "Mia, I heard you were back," Lucas said, stepping into the room cautiously, like a cautious deer approaching a clamor of wolves. "What's going on?" Mia's brow furrowed. Why was he here? They hadn't been close, not anymore. Their childhood was littered with distant memories, faint glimmers of shared laughter obscured by the shadows of their separate lives. "I was just having a conversation," Mia replied sharply, not interested in revealing more than she already did. "What do you want?" "Mom sent me," Lucas mumbled, shuffling his feet, gaze darting between their father and Mia. She was worried. She thought. His voice trailed off, fear glinting in his eyes as if he couldn't quite grasp the gravity of their father's sudden re-emergence. "I don't need a babysitter," Mia shot back, the biting edge in her tone reflecting her inner turmoil. Beneath the anger, confusion took root. Lucas had often been the bridge connecting her to home. His return felt heavy with unspoken expectations. "Mia, please," he implored, stepping forward. "This isn't just about Dad. It's about us too. You can't ignore everything forever." She hated that he was right. The painful shards of her past were still lodged in her heart, sharp and pressuring. "Enough." Their father's voice cut through, disrupting the rising tension. "This needs to be addressed. We can't keep avoiding it." Mia turned her gaze back to her father, measuring the sincerity in his eyes against the weight of their shared history. "You think this is easy for me? You think you can just step back into my life and magically undo the hurt? It doesn't work like that." His shoulders slumped, and behind her father's resolve lay a vulnerability she had never seen. "I know it doesn't. But I'm here now, and I'm willing to put in the work." That declaration ignited a flash of curiosity within Mia. What were the parameters of potential reconciliation? Could she dare to entertain the prospect of family under these conditions, when the past loomed so ominously over everything? "Work?" she echoed incredulously. "What does that even look like? You can't show up, say those words, and expect me to fall into line. If you want a chance at this, your actions need to be consistent with those promises." The challenge hung between them like an unlit fuse, ready to detonate. Lucas remained silent, watching this tense exchange unfold like a spectator. Mia could feel his internal conflict. He was caught between siding with her pain or advocating for their father. It only added to her growing sense of isolation. "Then I'll start right now," their father promised, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "Let's not waste any more time." "What does that mean, really?" Mia countered, refusing to let herself be swayed by mere words. The air thickened with accumulated truths and half-truths. Here she was, confronted with possibilities she once thought closed off. Would she forge ahead, or retreat into the comfort of solitude that had shielded her for so long? As her heart raced, a familiar determination began to pulse within her. She would reclaim her narrative, but first she needed to know whether this man before her was truly committed to rebuilding the bridge he had once destroyed. "Mia," Sarah's soft voice interrupted her thoughts, snapping her back to reality. "Whatever happens next, you don't have to do it alone." That reminder hung in the air, and suddenly, the shifting dynamics around her felt clearer. "Then let's begin," Mia declared, her tone steadying as she turned back to her father. "But understand this. The journey begins with transparency. You can't hide behind excuses anymore." A fragile hope sparked within her as she braced herself for what lay ahead. But just as that flicker ignited, another knock reverberated, dense with implication. The truth of her family and hidden histories loomed larger than ever. Who would step into this unfolding narrative now? What revelations would they bring to the already tumultuous stage of Mia's life? Mia's heart pounded as she braced for the next interruption. The knock reverberated against the walls, echoing the tumult within her mind. She stood on the edge, acutely aware of her precarious position, not just at this moment but within the process of dissecting years of emotional wreckage. Her father, noticeably reluctant, exchanged a glance with Lucas, as if the weight of what was to come hung between them. In that stillness, Mia pieced together that this confrontation was only the beginning of a far larger unraveling. "Just a moment," she said loudly, her voice slicing through the air like a knife, meant more for herself than for the others. She stepped away from the palpable tension building in the room, the echo of past grievances tearing at her resolve. When she opened the door, she was met not with the stranger of her imagination, but with the barbed edges of someone she hadn't seen in years, a distant relative who had kept the issues of the past too close. "Aunt Julie," Mia uttered. Her breath caught as she saw the alarm in her aunt's eyes. "Mia, we need to talk," Julie said, the urgency in her voice a reflection of untold stories and hidden truths. The fear of another revelation surged, but her innate need for transparency urged Mia to let her in, to confront whatever this new arrival might unveil. "Fine," Mia replied, her voice steadied by a burgeoning sense of determination. "But this isn't the past you remember. It's a different landscape now." With a blend of resignation and strength, Mia stepped aside, motioning for her aunt to enter. The atmosphere thickened as Julie took a seat beside Lucas. Her eyes flickered between the trio, a seeker in a dense forest, hungering for the story to unfold. "I've come because there's something you all need to hear. Something I should have told you long ago," she began, her tone serious as she approached a delicate issue with care. Mia resisted the urge to flinch. She needed to hear this. No half-truths, no beating around the bush. "Go on, I'm listening." "It's about your father's absence." Julie hesitated, and Mia could see the pain etched on her face. "Your dad didn't just walk away. There was an accident. He tried to reach you, but everything spiraled out of control. He didn't want you to think he chose anything over you." Mia processed the information, her heart lurching. While this piece of information could soften some truths, it only intensified the conflicting emotions within her. And what does that matter now? He's back, and we're still left picking up the pieces of his past. "But you need to understand," Julie continued, courage blooming in her voice. "The reality is that he loves you and wants to atone for his mistakes. He wasn't able to see the consequences of his choices until now." For a moment, Mia felt as if the ground beneath her shifted. Was this confrontation teasing strands of compassion from the past? The possibilities widened, but buried within her was a fear of hope, a flickering candle in a storm uncertain of rest. Lucas spoke then, the younger brother summoning courage. "We can rebuild, Mia. Together. You have to trust each other to succeed." His conviction was infectious, igniting an internal struggle within her, testing past fears against the light of potential reconciliation. "No more waiting, Lucas," Mia exclaimed, adrenaline surging. "If we're going to do this, we have to be brutally honest." She turned her focus back to Julie. "What else haven't I been told?" Lifting her chin, Julie stared at Mia, eyes earnest. "You're stronger than you know, and it's time to confront the truth fully. You're capable of changing this narrative, but only if you face it outright." Every word wrapped around Mia, weaving together a tapestry of escalating determination and painstaking self-examination. This was no longer just about family truths spilled on the table. It was also about unearthing her own buried potential. The encounters had prompted her to realign her understanding of herself and ignite the crackdown on what she truly wanted.
As the conversation matured in depth, Mia felt the latent doubt that had knotted itself in her heart begin to dissipate. She was awakening to the possibility of not just deciphering the family web, but forging a new direction from her own ashes. "Mia," her father interjected, desperation dripping from his voice, "I'm here to reclaim my role, to earn your trust back."
Pinned between the past and a horizon of uncharted waters, Mia realized the emergence of a new variable that had been obscured all along, the potential for her own growth. She had a choice, yet again, standing poised before the crossroads. With a deep breath, Mia met everyone's gaze, reaffirming her stance. "Then prove it. Show me you want this just as much as I do. Because if I'm venturing into this uncertain territory, I need to know that I won't journey alone." The room pulsed with anticipation, a collective inhale that bridged the gulf between fear and hope. If it was a fight for family, then Mia recognized her capacity to steer the course. The stakes were much higher now, and danger lay in uncertain revelations. How far would she be willing to go to unlock the gates of healing? But just before any of them could respond, another knock shattered the moment once more, pulsating with thought-provoking uncertainty. What other heart-stopping truths waited behind that door? Mia felt a ripple of unease slicing through the air as the knock resonated deeper than any before. She glanced at her father and Julie, who shared a worried look that seemed to amplify the mounting tension. It was as if the universe was pressing its thumb down on them, urging the hidden truths to surface. The moment hung heavy, and her mind raced with possibilities, most of which she feared. Who is it this time? She mused, half bitter, half hopeful. The layers of her emotional landscape were shifting, but each revelation only added to the complexity of her situation. This was not merely about her father anymore. It was about her too, who she was and who she could become. Determined to confront whatever lay on the other side, she made her way to the door once more. This time she didn't give voice to her anxiety. Instead, she let her steady breath be the song of strength she had been crafting. As she turned the knob and pulled the door open, the weight of uncertainty dissipated in an instant. A young man stood there, unassuming but with an intensity in his eyes that took Mia by surprise. He carried an air of urgency that felt almost tangible, crackling in the charged atmosphere. "Mia, I'm sorry to intrude, but it's important we talk," he said, taking a step inside before she had the chance to respond. His confidence was unnerving and strangely familiar. "Who are you?" she demanded, suspicion flaring within her. The vulnerability she'd just begun to acknowledge now threatened to infringe upon her space. She could feel her heart rate spike as she awaited an answer. "I'm Ethan," he replied, his voice steady despite the tension. "I work for your father, and we need to discuss some matters that he hasn't disclosed yet. Matters that impact you directly." Mia exchanged glances with her father, who paled. "What matters?" she pressed, feeling the axis of her world tilt precariously. "Your father is not just looking to reconcile," Ethan said, his gaze now piercing through the haze of confusion. "He has legal and financial repercussions from his past choices, and they concern you." Mia's stomach knotted. "What does that even mean?" "It means," Ethan continued unwavering, "there are assets, trusts, and more importantly, connections he has made since his return. You have the right to know where you stand in all of this. The last thing we want is for you to be blindsided." "Blindsided?" Mia echoed, a mixture of indignation and hurt sparking to life. "Is this another one of his attempts to manipulate my feelings? First, it's the painted picture of lost love, and now I'm supposed to deal with money? This has nothing to do with healing." Her father stepped forward, desperation oozing from his every movement. "Mia, this is essential. I have made a lot of mistakes, but these are not meant to hurt you. I want you to have every opportunity to thrive." In that moment, she felt the walls close in. Would they ever stop navigating through the clutter of the past? The complexities of family mattered more than any financial gain, yet here they were, weighed down by the unseen burdens of choices made long before her. It was clear that they were teetering on the edge, another precarious moment that could shift their relationship yet again. Ethan's face softened. "I understand your anger, but this is bigger than emotions. Think about your future. Think about your choices. Her future." Those two words reverberated through her thoughts like a flint striking stone. What kind of future did she really want? The revelations thus far were merely a prologue to a story where she controlled the pen. The internal tug-of-war within Mia became fiercer. Could she disentangle herself from familial legacies and forge her own? She felt her resolve hardening. The healing she sought extended beyond emotion. It was closely interwoven with reclaiming her sense of agency. "Perhaps you're right, Ethan," she conceded, swallowing the lump in her throat. "But I'll only move forward if we do this as a united front. I won't be a passive character in my own story." Acknowledging her growing clarity didn't erase the uncertainty thrumming through her veins, but it sparked another flame of desire within her, one that focused on possibilities rather than merely navigating the storm ahead. Then it settled. Ethan said, determination replacing urgency in his tone. "We need a plan, one that includes you leading your stake in this." With a newfound focus, Mia dived deeper into contemplation, sensing how this development could pivot her path entirely. The truths were steep and slippery, but that also meant she was on the brink of defining her own role.
Just then, her phone buzzed annoyingly on the table, breaking the charged atmosphere. She hesitated, curiosity piquing as she picked it up. The text on the screen sent shockwaves through her composure, an unexpected name she had never thought she would hear again, one that wove tightly into the fabric of her past and her father's present. What was coming next might not just change everything, but it might also challenge who she had chosen to become in this moment of unearthing. The moment Mia's eyes skimmed over the name on her phone, a jolt of recognition shot through her like a lightning bolt. Lara. The very name that hung like an unspoken specter in the corners of her mind. The one that had slipped away into obscurity long ago, but had left behind a web of questions and unresolved feelings. "Who is it?" Ethan asked, breaking the silence, his tone shifting from professional to curious. He stepped closer, piecing together the sudden change in Mia's demeanor. "It's a name from my past," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, the adrenaline making her heartbeat echo in her ears. "Someone I never thought I'd hear from again." Her father leaned over, peering at the screen. "Lara, is that your mother's niece?" Mia nodded, the lump in her throat growing heavier. A thread of betrayal twisted through her gut as memories cascaded through her mind. Memories that she had locked away, only to be summoned by this unexpected message. The implications of this communication sent a shiver down her spine. "What does she want?" Ethan asked, fostering a sense of urgency that tugged against Mia's resolve to control her emotions. "I don't know," she admitted, the frantic uncertainty of her past racing back to meet her in the present. She felt the clash of conflicting emotions again, anger simmering against an old affection that refused to wither. Instead of immediately responding to Lara, Mia turned her gaze toward her father. The weight of their earlier conversation collided with this new revelation. "If this is about you," she said slowly, curbing the storm of rising feelings, "then maybe it's not just about me. Is there a connection?" She could see the gears spinning in her father's mind. His reaction flickered between worry and helplessness. "Your mother and I made decisions that affected everyone," he replied tightly. "I never wanted you to carry our burdens." Her throat burned as frustration surfaced. "I'm not a child, Dad. I'm done being your shield." She then glanced back at her phone, the faint vibration demanding her attention again. The message stirred the hunger for answers lurking just beneath her surface, a hunger she'd dismissed for too long. "I have to know," she said decisively, her fingers brushing the screen, contemplating whether she would dare open the message. "I deserve to hear what she has to say." The prospect of facing the ghosts of her past felt like stepping into a minefield. Each detonated memory threatened to blow apart the carefully assembled coherence of her present. Yet somewhere in that tangled fear lay an undeniable excitement, the prospect of uncovering hidden truths that could empower her. With determination she opened the message. The words flooded her senses, sharp and haunting. Lara spoke of regrets, lost time, and the shadows of familial legacies looming over them. But most importantly, she hinted at a secret, a turbulent history entwined in their lives that was now surfacing. "Every secret comes at a cost, Mia. This one will change everything you thought you knew about us." Read the last line, an ominous promise lingering like dark clouds overhead. "What does it say?" Ethan pushed gently, watching her process the unexpected information. "It's worse than I thought," she muttered, grappling with the implications of untangling a deeply rooted family mystery. "It's not just about me, it's about our entire history." Mia was acutely aware that she stood on the precipice of a revelation much larger than she had imagined. The agency she had begun to claim was about to be tested in the most challenging way. Her father was shifting beneath the weight of his past, and the silence felt louder than the booming words of accusation firing in her head. With deep resolve, she made a decision. "We need to speak to her, together. If we're going to do this, we need to stand as a family." Ethan nodded, his features a mix of support and wariness. "Then we need a strategy. If her truths are as powerful as they seem, we have to be prepared for the fallout." Emboldened by her newfound determination, Mia's heart raced not only from fear but also exhilaration. With every step into the unknown, each truth unveiled, she could feel herself transforming.
The journey she envisioned was impossible to predict, but one thing became glaringly clear. Her life was not just going to be a story of survival. It was shaping into a narrative of resilience, reclaiming her identity amidst family chaos. As her mind circled back to the secrets waiting to be unearthed, another text notification chimed on her phone, intensifying the uncertainty. The name before her bore consequences she hadn't considered. This felt more than a mere family drama. It was the doorway to a life she hadn't yet dared to claim. "Are you ready for this?" Ethan asked, urgency shadowing his words, and in that moment, Mia recognized the gravity of her choice. She was about to dive into depths that could alter the very foundation of her existence. "Yes," she breathed, her heart steadying. "Because it's time to confront my past." But just as she prepared herself for the impending conversation with Lara, a thought gripped her. Could the family history also hold keys to her future? As clarity surged, Mia's next step danced on the edge of revelation, pulling at her insecurities while beckoning her toward an unexpected power awaiting her embrace. The days that followed were steeped in a tense anticipation, each hour stretching like an elastic band about to snap. Mia hadn't seen Lara since childhood, and the years had created a chasm filled with whatever secrets the adults had buried away. The idea of connecting with her again felt like a leap into uncharted waters, both thrilling and terrifying. She found herself replaying moments from her childhood, particularly memories of family gatherings that had ended too soon. What had unfolded behind closed doors? As she mulled over these thoughts during lunch with Ethan, she realized she wasn't just interested in reconciling with a forgotten cousin. She was in search of her own place in the fractured narrative of her family. "What do you think she meant by secrets?" Ethan asked, pulling Mia from her reverie. They were seated at a small cafe, steam rising from their coffees while the ambience buzzed with chatter. She could feel Ethan's eyes searching hers, trying to gauge her wherewithal. "I don't know," she confessed, her voice barely a murmur. "But whatever it is, I can't let it remain hidden. I want to understand, to own my story." Ethan nodded, but his brow furrowed. "Just remember, this isn't just about you. This could really shake things up for your dad, too." The complexity of Mia's quest settled back on her shoulders. This confrontation would demand more than courage. It would require a clarity she hadn't yet accessed. Torn between the need for answers and a desire to shield her father from more pain, she found herself wrestling with her moral compass. Was it noble to dig up painful truths, or merely reckless? Returning home that evening, her body felt like a tightly wound spring, ready to release. Her father was already there, slumped in his usual chair, stained glass light from the setting sun, casting colorful shadows across the room. "Hey, Dad," she ventured, pushing past her fear. "I think it's time we talk about Lara." His gaze flickered up, betraying a mix of emotions: relief, dread, wariness. "I figured you'd want to reach out to her." His voice was measured, as if choosing each word with care. "Just be careful, okay? Some things were meant to be left in the past." The palpable tension made her ache with determination. "But how can I move forward if I don't understand what happened?" She took a breath to steady herself. "I don't want to repeat mistakes you made, Dad." His response hung in the air, heavy with unsaid apologies and repressed histories. In that moment, Mia realized that confronting Lara would not only challenge her view of her family, but demand her to stand firmly in her own identity. She felt it, that burgeoning voice inside that had long been suppressed, yearning to break free. "Let's call her together," Mia suggested finally, her tone commanding a sincerity that surprised even her. "If we're going to uncover this, we should do it as a team. I can't carry this alone." Her father sighed heavily, eyes revealing a lifetime of wariness. "You're right, Mia. We need to face this together." Mia's resolve crystallized. She could no longer be just the child of their past. She needed to embrace her agency as an individual forging her future. A new clarity had emerged. This situation was not merely a family affair, but a crossroads where she could redefine herself. As they reached for the phone, fingers brushing over the screen, a hesitant excitement filled the room. This was a deliberate choice to take back control, not just over her past, but over her future. Just as she prepared to dial, another message illuminated her screen. Another note from Lara, a plea for understanding perhaps, or a confession. Mia's breath caught. This was the moment where answers met courage. Would she dare to grasp the newly formed threads of her family tapestry? "Ready?" she whispered, exchanging a look with her father that held the weight of uncertainty and hope in equal measure. The answer hung in the air, as vibrant and unpredictable as their journey ahead. In that instant, she knew they were on the brink of something monumental. Her story was about to intertwine irrevocably with the shadows of their shared past. "Let's do this," she said, dialing with a steely resolve, unaware just how significantly her life was about to pivot. What would Lara reveal, and how would it change everything Mia thought she knew about herself and her family? Mia held her breath, the phone pressed against her ear as the dial tone echoed in the silence. Her father's thumb hovered expectantly, ready to assist if she faltered. The weight of the moment felt suffocating, yet exhilarating, a convergence of past echoes and potential futures. What would Lara say? Inside, Mia wrestled with a surge of anxiety mixed with resolve. Each second felt elongated, a stretching sinew of hope intertwined with fear. The phone rang twice before she heard that familiar voice. "Mia?" Lara's tone was tentative, almost as if she were testing the water before the plunge. I'm here," Mia stammered, the reality of speaking to her cousin settling in. "Mia, it's been so long. I know," Mia interrupted, desperation creeping into her voice. "I need to understand. I need you to tell me everything, about our families, about the secrets." There was a brief silence, during which Mia could almost feel the miles between them, thickening with unspoken emotions. "I wanted to explain, but it's complicated," Lara replied. The words floated like a fragile thread, barely holding the conversation together. Mia's heart raced. Her desire for clarity overtook her hesitation. "I'm not afraid of complicated. I'm ready to know what you know. I want to piece together the truth." Each word came from a newfound strength she barely recognized, a clarity blooming inside her. "Okay," Lara said, her voice firming. "But it's not just about secrets. It's about choices our families made. Choices that have echoed into our lives. You might not want to hear everything." Mia's grip on the phone tightened as she waded deeper into trepidation. "I need to hear it. I can't keep living in the dark." "All right. Just know that there are reasons people walked away." Lara's voice trembled slightly. "I've learned things that I wish I didn't have to know." A surge of empathy mixed with determination filled Mia. She wasn't just digging up dirt, she was unearthing her roots. "What happened?" she pressed, a quiver of urgency lacing her words. "Well, it started with your grandfather's business," Lara began, and Mia felt her heart surge. This was it, the pivotal moment that would color her understanding of her family's legacy. As Lara spoke, Mia sensed shadows flickering from her father's memories, fragments of a life she had not known existed. Each revelation tugged at an aching string inside her, forcing her to confront unrecognized emotions, both anger and sorrow. What had been left unsaid was cascading back, demanding recognition and understanding that Mia was in an unexpected position to grant. "And your grandmother was not the woman everyone believes her to be?" Lara continued, each revelation wrapping around Mia like a storm. "Her choices put families in danger, including ours." "Mia, don't," her father whispered, but she felt resolute. "No, let her finish," Mia said, her voice trembling but steady. The fear of what might unfold was eclipsed by a powerful instinct to discover who she truly was. This wasn't merely about the past, it was about claiming her identity in the present and grappling with what the future held. With every piece of information revealed, she began to see the outlines of her mother's silence and her father's guarded demeanor. They weren't just reactions from a distant past. They were choices that had shaped who she was. Lara's words reshaped her reality, unveiling strengths she had yet to recognize within herself. "Lara, what does this mean for us?" she finally asked, the abandonment of fear transforming into a determination to mold her identity anew. It means, Lara hesitated, that we have a choice now. We can either walk away from this, or, Mia pressed, her pulse quickening at the possibilities. Or we can face it together. The truth might fracture your family, but it could also set us free. In that moment, Mia understood the weight of her decision. Would she push through the complexities, embracing the collective burdens of her lineage, or retreat into the comforting fog of ignorance? As the conversation deepened, revealing cracks in her family's facade, a familiar urgency ignited within her. Mia knew that this was not merely about secrets. This was a reckoning. The fractures she had sensed were now tangible challenges that required her to confront not only Lara, but also herself. Let's hold on to that thought, Mia murmured, feeling the net of acceptance slowly lift. But first I need you to tell me everything. Don't hold back. With that, Lara's voice grew steady, weaving through a story entwined in desperation and hope, revealing connections that would challenge Mia's perception of who she was. But just then, another message pinged through. A photo, a memory, one that seemed to loom ominously over the revelation like a storm cloud. Mia's heart sank. What could it possibly mean, and how would it alter everything she was starting to understand? That question lingered as she prepared for the next chapter in her journey, a chapter that would test her newfound resolve against the reality of her family's past. The phone buzzed in Mia's hand, electric with intensity as she braced herself for the next revelation. The photo that appeared on the screen was a family gathering from years ago. Her heart raced as she recognized familiar faces, including her own. Yet, the shadow in the background was a visage she had never seen, the ghost of a man whose absence had sculpted the contours of her life. Mia? Lara's voice, muffled by the chasm of time, pulled her back into the conversation. Are you still there? I am, Mia replied, steadying her breath as she fought to digest the meaning flooding her mind. Just know that confronting the past means you'll have to face what you didn't understand before. The choices our families made that have brought us here. Lara's voice was laced with urgency, echoing her earlier insistence. I understand, Mia said, her voice firmer now. But I can't do this half-heartedly. I need to know everything, and I mean every detail. As they continued discussing their family's past, Mia's resolve began to crystallize around her identity. The weight of her father's absence had been transformed, no longer just a ghost haunting her childhood, but a dimension of herself she was ready to confront. Every secret unearthed only fueled her desire to reclaim the narrative, not just as a byproduct of her father's choices, but as a powerful individual sculpting her own path. While the truth flowed between them like a river, Mia felt a profound shift within. She no longer questioned her value. She was becoming the architect of her own life. With each revelation from Lara, accusations that hung in the air shifted into opportunities for growth. The burdens of the past were now tangible learning experiences. You're a resilient force, Mia, Lara said, her tone shifting to one of support. Don't let this history define you. Shape it instead. Your father's absence need not dictate your future. Mia, her father interjected, watching her closely. Your journey is yours alone to navigate. I can only guess at the significance of these connections, but I'm here to support you, even if it means re-examining everything. The words struck a chord deep within her heart. Freedom surged, a newfound confidence igniting her spirit as she absorbed the weight of family truths into her own framework. Suddenly Mia felt the stirrings of hope within, a sense that she wasn't just excavating wounds but unearthing empowerment. Every moment spent in exploration of her family history was propelling her into a future that shimmered with potential. Let's move forward together, Mia exclaimed, conviction rising in her voice. This won't just be about our families. It will be about us coming to terms with our past while intentionally stepping into a future we choose. As her father nodded, the apprehension that had once clouded their conversations began to dissipate, replaced by a palpable energy alive with possibilities. Standing at the precipice of this defining moment, Mia felt that she had metamorphosed. She was no longer the scared girl overshadowed by familial legacies. She was a young woman ready to own her story. I'm ready to reshape my life, Mia concluded, her eyes flaring with determination. To choose who I want to be, independent of the burdens others placed upon me. That clarity sharpened her purpose. The storm had passed, leaving calm waters in its wake. Mia understood now that she wielded the power to reclaim her narrative, to rebuild shattered connections, and to embrace her family's history without letting it eclipse her own aspirations. I'll reach out to Lara and see where this leads. We need to take control of this story, together, she said to her father, her voice steady as a newfound confidence coursed through her veins. As their conversation closed and the next chapter unfolded before her, Mia reflected on how far she had come. No longer adrift in the turbulent waters of confusion, she had anchored herself firmly. Every decision, every revelation enriched her understanding of what it meant to stand tall in the face of familial histories that had tried to shape her. No more shadows, she whispered under her breath, a promise to herself as she prepared to face the day ahead. She was determined to construct her life intentionally, leveraging her past not as a dagger but as a tool, a means to achieve clarity and fulfillment. And as morning light seeped through the window, casting the room in a warm glow, Mia recognized the strength that lay in vulnerability. Life was poised to reset, the threshold had shifted, and she was set to conquer every challenge that lay ahead. This was her transformation. This was her time. It was not the story her family had written, but one she would craft, boldly, fearlessly, resolutely. Now, beyond the past, she stood on the brink of triumph. The hard-fought battle for understanding, self-acceptance, and empowerment had arrived, proving she was not merely a product of her lineage, but a resilient individual capable of redefining it all. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. You need to subscribe now. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. This is the moment to show your support. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.